when we become mindfully aware of how we act, how other people act around us, and how just the perception of our mindset works, then we're constantly having a mindful awareness instead of mindless efficiency. We call it mindful efficiency. So a lot of people operate on mindless efficiency, just like when you're getting in your car, you're opening it, you get in, you start driving, and your mind is focused on something else. And 15 minutes later, you're like, whoa, I'm already at the place where I need to be. I don't even remember how I got here, because you're mindlessly doing all of the things because it's become a part of you. How to turn the gas pedal, how to push the gas pedal, turn the car on. In the beginning, when we were learning how to drive the car, everything was constant awareness. What do I push? How do I turn? How do I back up? And then after that, it's like normal. And the same thing is here with practicing our understanding of social media, doing our nonprofit organization engagements and ministry, and promoting our organizations. In the beginning, your senses and your mind and everything else that is aware of changes and situations, and then when you get a little bit more used to it, you become mindlessly efficient because you already know a lot of the information, and so new information is not absorbed as well. So that's why I wanted everybody to just kind of be on the same page, that no matter how much we think we know, there is always more. And there are certain times when we're missing something that's right in front of our eyes, but we're just so focused on something else and we can't see the answer. So very good observations. The main point here, even with the blind spots, was that we need to ask ourselves, what is my blind spot right now towards my ministry, towards my nonprofit organization, or the work that I am doing? What am I not seeing? And Lord, open my eyes to see things that perhaps I have been either ignoring, not wanting to deal with, afraid of, because all of that plays a part of our attitude in establishing blind spots. Very good. So because of time constraints, I'm going to kind of move our discussion into the PowerPoints now. We did receive several questions yesterday, and those were from Betty, and also I think I have them written down here. From Joyce. So the question from Betty is, what kind of equipment do we use to create our videos and social media platforms and things like that? We will be covering that tomorrow, so I will not be answering it tonight, but you will get an answer to your question tomorrow. And then from Joyce, she had a couple of questions pertaining to me that I can address now. The first one is, I have 3 websites, because that was on slide 1 when I was doing my introduction. And the question was, do I manage all of them, or does my staff manage them? So I did my websites with putting them together with all of the information, and me and my graphic designer actually worked on the beautification aspect, but I was the one that was managing them for a long time, and I still do. I still make changes and updates, but I also have a graphic designer that does that and knows how to do it for me. I try to be involved in a lot of things in my organization, just because we're not huge staff and not a huge organization in a sense where I'm paying a lot of people to do things. So I wear multiple hats, and I have learned over the years how to manage a lot of things in a precise manner without wasting a lot of time. But we will be talking about websites tomorrow also, and how to increase your web presence. The next question was actually Pastor Shai and several others of us who have multiple Facebook pages and multiple Instagram pages, who manages those pages. So for me, I manage all of them, and I have about 12 also, kind of like Pastor Shai. And once you know what you're doing, it's not going to take forever to do it. Although at the moment I am working with a new person, and she's going to be helping me with the captions, and then with my graphic designer, she's going to be helping me with staying consistent with the colors and the pictures and everything that we're posting. So my posts are going to be changing quite drastically, hopefully soon, when we have everything organized and put together. But in general, I'm the one that manages everything. Pastor Shai, you can feel free to answer who manages yours, but
we have a good team. I have 12 that I'm the admin on, but we have a great team. I'd say the church, the fellowship of churches, and are the two that I'm the most active on, and then it kind of goes downhill. But we have a team, but there's two that, the main two, I spend all of my time on. So
very good.
I can do all of them, but yeah, not a lot of fun, but.
Well, we're actually going to be learning how to utilize social media in a quick and efficient way, so that everybody that is a part of the class can learn how to create captions and how to schedule a full month of social media posts in about an hour to two, and pre-schedule them online. So this way you're not coming up with the post every single day if you already know what's happening for the rest of the month. So that's going to be coming up tomorrow, and we'll answer more about it. And then the next question, she had given us 6 questions. The next one here is, what is my opinion of apps versus websites? We will cover that tomorrow also, but if you have a large organization and you have a lot of content, it would be great to have an app if you can pay for it and have somebody really design a wonderful app for you. But a website at the moment that is mobile friendly works just as well if you are not just in excessive amount of money and you want to save them for something else. A website can also do the trick. Free apps are limited, and they don't have all of the aspects that you would need, like as far as donations. When it's a free app, you have to add more stuff to it in order to receive donations on it. So might as well have a friendly website where the user can actually donate immediately on the page and know where to go. The next one is, can I share?
Excuse me, Ceitci. Could I make a comment?
Sure.
On just the previous question, had to do with who manages the multiple social networking sites. I want to just make a comment. No matter how many staff people you have, you as the ministry leader can never relinquish the responsibility for the image, the vision, what the look, the feel, the relationship that's being cast to the people who are supporting. So the idea that you ever could just get people who do it for you, that's a fantasy. Even if you get people later who are really good at it, sometimes young people are really good at it, you have friends that just are good in that area, you've got to know enough to be sure that you can judge what they're doing, to be sure it's effective for your ministry. I see men all the time that they have these big staffs and it looks like they don't lift a finger. And that may work, but they're paying big bucks for staff. I've never known a woman in charge of a ministry who has had that luxury. So I just think it's realistic. My philosophy has always been, and it's 50 years of administration, until you know how to do something, you can't delegate it. Now that's not exactly fair in really high-tech areas, but you have to know enough, at least in some of the things that Ceitci is emphasizing concerning the communication and the relationship and all of that. You can't sit back and a ministry flourish with just staff doing what they're going to do without you being at the helm. I've got Jennifer's on our staff. One of her areas of responsibility is with us. She can comment on what I'm saying. She would know that she knows 100 times more than I know, but she knows I'm right there. and I have an opinion, and I'm there, I'm supporting her, and she can come to me, and we dialogue on these things. So I just think it's important at a beginning stage that women in ministry not look forward to a fantasy. It's like an oasis. What do you call that when it's in the desert and you think a mirage? Mirage. That's a mirage. So that's all I have to say about that.
No, that was really, really good. I'm glad you made that point, because that's a lot of people assume that when something looks nice on their page or website, they paid somebody else to do it. In my case, I haven't either. And that's why I learned how to do web design. I learned how to do videos. I taught myself basically by going on YouTube, learning how to edit videos and how to do it all. Because when I had small budget and I wanted things to look nice and still raise the funding, I couldn't just pay $700 to $1,000 for a 2-minute video. I mean, videos are expensive. Website design is expensive. Websites in general, if you don't know what you're doing, could spend easily several months trying to put them together. And if you don't know how to put them together and you're wasting the designer's time, you will be paying a lot of extra money for it. So over the time, I have also learned the same thing. And I did learn this from Bishop, as she was saying. One phrase that she always said that stuck with me over the years is, don't ever delegate something that you don't know anything about. Delegate it because you don't have time to do it. And from 22 and on, ever since I got that into my head, I also realized the day of an easy escape is never gonna come. So I need to know and grow, just like all of us. That's why we're here, for this class. So everything that we are observing and learning, nobody just did it for us. We learned with time. And that's why this is very important. Some of us have been in ministry for 25 years and have been doing social media and everything else for at least 5 years or more. And others may have been in full-time ministry, but not having any experience with web and video and posting and stuff like that. You can't expect the same results after one class, that they're going to just happen overnight. And that is having to deal with realistic expectations. Not everybody knows your presence on the internet like somebody else who has been on the internet for a long period of time. So that actually comes with time, and understanding that helps you not to get discouraged along the way. So Bishop, thank you for sharing that. And like with me last year, well, actually the year before, I was living in California. California is a location that has a lot of talent. I mean, people with huge talent move to LA just to pursue different careers, and bright people that end up just working regular jobs during the day, trying to be somebody later in life. And so I found great young people that could help me with different things. So I decided, hey, I'm going to do an experiment, see if they could manage my social media. And I was just going to do it for about a month on my Instagram. I hired a girl that said, I got to remember, young people that are in between 20 and 25 will want to charge a lot of money to run an Instagram account because they are like feeling they're pros. And so I thought, I'll just give this girl the benefit of the doubt, because immediately she's like, I can totally grow your account and do everything. And I said, all right, let's just see what you got. So she took my book, Motivated by the Impossible, and she was going to just do quotes. But because she doesn't know me well at all, the most random quotes out of the book that you could possibly imagine yourself taking out of context, she's putting them on an actual post. And without running it by me, I see the post on the Instagram, and I'm like, that can be taken so wrongly, because I'm talking about circumstances, I'm talking about communism, I'm talking about things that have happened in my life. And then out of that whole thing, we have a quote. And so Nevertheless, she's no longer with us, and the account didn't go anywhere because it was just not working right. And I realized I can't just randomly have a person that says we know what we're doing without they personally knowing me, being with the ministry for several years and knowing exactly what our vision and goal is. Because to her, my ministry was just another account. To me, is my entire life. I've given my life to be doing this, and I can't just hand it off to somebody else. So very, very good examples here. The next one here is about the survey that I did with my partners. So there are several things, and those are in your handouts for the general resources, but I have listed several places where you can create online surveys. One is literally just through Google Suites. If you have a Gmail account, you can create a survey through there, hook it up to your website, or send it in an individual email link to your staff, to your partners. Another one is surveymonkey.com, and you can have up to 10 questions for free without having to pay for the survey that you can also send to people if you want to do surveys. I can't really share that survey with you guys because that was done online, and I can't disclose answers from people. But I did only just do 3 or I think 4 questions that I shared yesterday. And that's just pretty easy. You can come up with your own questions according to whatever you want people to know about, like, or from the information that you want to find out if they know or not about your ministry, such as, hey, do you know what our vision is? Am I communicating it clearly? Am I sending you, are we sending you too many mailings or not as many? And you have to separate those into questions. And then would you recommend our ministry to somebody else? With other words, is our website good enough for you to recommend it? Is the information good enough, or you're ashamed of how everything looks and therefore you don't want to partner or have anybody else partner with us? So just simple questions just to engage your partners and to see what they think about you and the organization. And then you create more answers from those surveys that you can add to your website, to your mailing lists, to your email communication, to your posts and engagements. The next question here is, after Saturday, when we're done, what is the best way to follow up with me or with anybody else? So as you saw on my slide where I was introducing myself, I've given everybody my email and our office number, and I also have given out my websites. I am a person, if I'm going to be talking about this whole class and I'm telling you that you need to establish proper relationships and have a follow-up system and know how to follow up with everybody, that means that I do it myself. So if you have questions after the class is over, always feel free to email me and ask me. If it's too many questions, we can schedule a call and discuss it. I'm always accessible, just like Pastor Shai said. We're here to serve you. We want to stay in touch with everyone, especially those of you who are new to WIN and you're just now joining us for the first time. We have created a network of people, and we want to stay connected for the long run. So we're not here just to one time take your email and then forget about you. We stay connected. So yes, feel free to connect with us. And then, like I also said, there is more information that will be coming to you, and Sandy will be sending that to you in your email inbox probably Monday after the class is over. With that in mind, I think we can go on to the actual continuation of the teaching. And if you have any new questions, for those of you who are joining us now for the first time tonight, if you have questions, please put them in the inbox that says chat on the bottom of the Zoom link here. It says participants, and then it says chat. Write your question. Sandy will send it to me via email, and then we will answer it tomorrow. Okay, So Jen, let's go to slide 18 on fundraising. So Jen is helping me with all of the PowerPoint, and tomorrow I will be a little bit more interactive with my screen as well, because we have more of the practical aspects that we need to cover. We're still establishing kind of the premise on fundraising, social media presence, all of that. And tonight we're continuing with the understanding of what fundraising is about. Several slides here I'm going to kind of go through quickly so that we can get to the good stuff in a minute. So fundraising, the definition for it, especially here in the United States, it's widely undertaken by charitable organizations, educational institutions, political groups to acquire sufficient funds to support their activities. Among the methods used are door-to-door appeals. Remember those when people would knock on the door and sell you something? Well, now we have the coronavirus. The only people knocking at your door are the ones delivering either Amazon or your groceries. So that's probably not going to be a fundraising method to apply, but it's from the encyclopedia, so I'm reading it to you. Also direct mail campaigns such as newsletters, letters, postcards, anything that you can think of that you can send via mail, charity dinners, testimonials, charity balls, benefit entertainments, and more recently, television, telephone solicitation. I mean, how many of us get calls all the time on our cell from somebody soliciting something? And it's always going to my voicemail at the moment, but it's somehow out there. People have your number. So this is all techniques that are accompanied by advertising and public relation campaigns. So that's just a regular definition of fundraising. The next slide, fundraising simplified for ministers, would be that this is not just a one-time event. This should be your lifestyle. You need to think of, I am fundraising at all times. I could be fundraising while I'm on the plane. I could be fundraising while going through the airport. I could be fundraising while I'm at the grocery store and while I'm at the post office. Everywhere you are, somebody is always watching you and they're always observing your actions. And so you can't out of the blue decide one day I'm going to fundraise, and prior to that you didn't even conduct yourself like a minister or like someone who knew what they're even doing or talking about. So if we need to get this in our mind, this is your new lifestyle. We talk about on TV, everybody is new normal. I don't think this is a new normal. This is just a different part of life at the moment. The moment you decided something is your new normal, you adopt it into your life without questioning it. And so we have to learn how to question information that we hear, but at the same time, with this particular information on fundraising, this is something that you want to assimilate 24/7. It's a part of you and it's not going anywhere. Fundraising involves a lot of work and time. And I don't think can emphasize enough that for me, full-time ministry doesn't mean that I am just on stage every Sunday speaking or answering an email here and there or a phone call or just running a nonprofit 5 hours a week. No, for me, it's like 24/7. I mean, I do sleep, but I'm engaged with our emails. I'm engaged with training of our leaders. Actually, Joyce's question was how many people I have on staff, which I also missed. So I'll answer it here. I have a graphic designer. I have a personal assistant, and I have a remote person. They're only acting to help me in different aspects when it comes to our database. We use Salesforce for database, which is actually free to all nonprofits, but you have to have a programmer to program your database. Otherwise, it's really useless. And so I had someone helped me since 2018 transition our entire database onto a new platform that everybody can access virtually from anywhere, so that we're all on the same page. And that took a year and a half to modify, to change all of the different duplicates of our mailings and emails and contacts. I mean, it was a lot of work. But all that to say, I don't have a huge staff. I really only have just those 3 people. And then I have several other people that work remotely, and they are independent contractors. So those guys, I just use them whenever is needed, such as a person who does editing for me. And then I have a couple of volunteers. One is a person who does our videos, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then I have somebody who does just captions and information that I need, and they come up with different ideas for me and different researches. And that's also a person who is volunteering. And those are people that I have met in various kinds of aspects and ways that have decided to partner with us. All of our people that are working with me in the States, we haven't had an office since I lived in Seattle, and that's been over 10 years ago now. So we all work from our homes. That's why the virus crisis here is not really affecting our work, because we were already working independently from our homes and just connecting via Zoom. Another thing that I do is we have people on the ground in Bulgaria. Yesterday I mentioned that I run a nonprofit that primarily focuses on teams and children in Bulgaria and also in Uganda. And we have minimized our work in Ghana just because we don't have a good team there. But for our team in Bulgaria, I have been doing that for 25 years. The team has been in development for the last 15 years. And in the last 3.5, 4 years, we expanded the team and expanded to 18 locations across the country of what we're doing with our children there and outreaches. So I spent the last 2 years training new leaders in the middle of the night because of the time zone. So between 2 and 4 in the morning, I was up talking to them and training them how to go door to door and get the kids, how to establish the volunteer network. So we have 100 volunteers that work with our team leaders, and we have 20 team leaders in all of these different locations. And now we have been able to hire a full-time executive director, and she was hired 2 years ago, so she can oversee the finances, the work, the execution of all of the work that the teams have to do. But once again, this was a lot of work on our end, and all of those people that are working with us in Bulgaria, they had to fill out a survey that I wanted to find out, are they willing to die for what they believe in? And the reason I use that kind of verbiage is because we work with children who are being trafficked, and sometimes those team leaders are confronted with traffickers, and it's just not an easy work. So it's not for everybody that said, oh, I'm just going to go run on the street and work with kids. It really is for people that are dedicated and dedicating their life for the people that they're rescuing off the streets, and especially the kids. So those are the people that I work with. We do have a team, and I love the fact that I can finally delegate more responsibilities to them. But yet at the same time, I'm in touch with everybody every single day. There is not one day that just goes by where I'm not going to connect with somebody from the team, because they need to hear from me. And if you're thinking that you're running an organization here locally, but you can't run something internationally, I will be the person to tell you that I can run it from America as good as if I was actually living in Bulgaria, because I've just had to learn how to trust people, even if they make mistakes. and how to grow them together so that they're not stuck in their mistake, or when we have team discussions and not everybody is on the same page. You know, we have to grow from those mistakes, and we have to grow from confrontation as well. So I'm sharing a little bit of that because it's important to understand, and for my staff and also for the people that are a part of our organization, they had to understand that in order for me to fundraise from here, they had to be as responsible over there and provide information to me and pictures and video footage and whatever else was necessary in order for me to communicate the message. And it's taking a while for us to get there, but we're finally there. So all this is going to take time and work. So the first thing would be get to know God in an intimate way. From everybody sharing last night, I believe that all of us know the Lord in a mature way, and that we're not just wondering, is God going to provide today? We know his faithfulness. We have experienced his goodness. So yes, he's going to be there, and he's the best fundraising provider. I mean, God is a God of ideas. He is a God of resources. He knows the people that he needs to connect you with. You just have to be open and present to receive those new connections and to look for the opportunities. But God will always be our provider, even in times when we don't know what we're doing. I guarantee you, if it wasn't for God, I would have ended up on the street long time ago as homeless person, because I started with absolutely nothing. But when you get to know God, you're also not afraid of people's opinions, and you're not doing this because somebody else is going to pat you on the shoulder and tell you, wow, what a great ministry you have. You got to do it because this is a part of who you are, and you believe in your mission and in your vision and what you're doing and the people you're serving. Most of the time, you're not going to get a pat on the shoulder. So you're going to have to pat yourself on the shoulder, go to the mirror, tell yourself all the amazing things you know about you, and then focus on everybody else. I remember one of my mentors in Seattle, before he passed away. He was the founder of the Pacific Institute, which is the organization that I learned some of those psychological principles that I was sharing yesterday. And he actually worked with Nelson Mandela in South Africa in helping them move from the apartheid and what was happening in South Africa in a more peaceful way for everybody to understand how to live together with respect. And he told us in a presentation how he went there with all of this knowledge and everything that he thought that he can just teach the South African people, and talked and talked and talked for the first day. And it was all about him and his accomplishments and how he can help them. And he was like trying so hard to sell a teaching. And he said Nelson Mandela pulled him over and said, you know, I would recommend something to you. If you really want to help us, go and tell yourself in the mirror all the things that you have done. Get it out of your system, and then come back and learn how to listen to us, because you can't help us unless you remove yourself out of the picture. And that really stuck with me, because how many times we think we're trying to help somebody else, and we're really there telling them all about us and everything that we know about us. And if that's the case, we will not have people supporting us, because they will think we're too selfish with the money that we're using. And we will not have followers unless you're paying for somebody to follow you. And I know people who have done networking and they have paid somebody to manage their account so that they can get to 500,000 or 1 million followers. And those are not actually true people. Those are accounts that are just bought. And then your posts have absolutely no validity, because if you're just living for the likes and how many you got, then basically you're in the wrong job, doing the wrong thing, because we're here ministering. So we're not here for the likes. We're here for God and for people. So this leads me to the next point, defining yourself so that others won't define you. Very important, just like I was talking about yesterday when I was being introduced and the pastor didn't know how to really introduce me. If I didn't know who I am, I could become very insecure in the way people give definitions about me or my ministry. So when you don't know how to define yourself and who you are, any definition that other people give you will be good enough for you. But when I was younger and people would say, oh, we just have Ceitci and she's got just this really cool, cute story and testimony. And that was their introduction for the longest time. And here I am, I'm thinking I'm bigger than just a little cute story. So I decided I'm going to define who I am. And I would tell people, well, that's great. I do have a great story, but here is me. The Lord has asked me to empower people, to raise them to the next level, to create them, to bring them into a place of leadership and power and authority to live in freedom. And so I wouldn't just let somebody define me according to whatever they thought they're going to define me. I redefine myself after that. And so that is one thing that you want to do with yourself is, who are you? How would you define yourself? If you were to die today, what is the definition you want somebody to say about you? And then start living by that definition. Raise the bar high, because God has big plans for us. Understanding of your vision and your why. We're going to show a video in just a minute about our why. But if your vision, just like it says in the Bible, make the vision plain so that everybody else can run with it. If the vision is complicated and you don't even know what the vision is, most likely nobody's going to know either. So I want you to take time. Maybe you already have it under your belt, but I want you to write down your vision. What exactly is your vision? And what are 3 words that define your vision? So that could be a little assignment that you do tonight, and then we can talk about it tomorrow. But definitely create a vision. I asked our team in Bulgaria to write their own personal vision. And did you know that they had no idea how to even create their vision? Everybody's like, well, I just want to help people. Well, that is quite broad. Your vision has to be defined. So what are some things that define your vision? I'm going to go to my website, chagingageneration.net, and we're going to be pulling that website tomorrow and talk about it more. But Jen, are you able to pull up my website and switch to the screen, chagingageneration.net?
Okay, is that the screen you're wanting? Can you see it?
Yeah, just go to the home page. So if you scroll a little bit lower, you're going to see that I have vision and then I have mission. So I decided for our nonprofit that I really needed to spend a little bit of time thinking what our vision is. And it says to create positive change in impoverished communities around the world through aid, education, and business development. And we do that by focusing on solutions, identifying the need, providing food, education, safety, and self-sustainability. We change a generation from living as victims of poverty and desperation to purpose-filled leaders who are victorious despite obstacles. So our vision really includes children, but it doesn't just include the kids, it includes the entire generation. Their parents, the grandparents, everybody that's connected to the growth of that child, and moving them from living as victims of poverty, because we work in very stricken in poverty environments, and moving them to a place where they can be leaders and they can work and develop despite of their obstacles and circumstances. Our mission is threefold: to empower, educate, and endeavor, which is located right below that if you scroll a little bit lower. So when it says empower, we're empowering children, youth, and adults to find their God-given destiny. And then we educate them to produce change in their community. And we endeavor to supply their emotional, spiritual, and physical needs. So it's good for you to keep the vision and mission somewhere visible, if it's on your homepage, if it's in different communications that you have on social media, so that at all times, when people are referring to you, they can actually know what they're saying. I have the same Empower, Educate, Endeavor also on our Facebook page, so that people know exactly what we're about. I have children's pictures on there so that they're not wondering who are we actually ministering to and why. It directs them right there. So let's switch screens again back to the PowerPoint. The last point here is understanding the law of capacity. So we all have enormous amount of potential, but because of our attitudes, beliefs, expectations, and habits, those four things: attitudes, habits, beliefs, and expectations, they cause us to only fulfill between 1 to 3% of our God-given potential. Everything else gets trapped in basically inability to think correctly, having a bad attitude, creating a wrong habit, and then being stuck in a wrong comfort zone. And so in order for us to get ourselves unstuck, we got to change our beliefs, and then the beliefs change our attitude, and then the attitude changes the way we look at current habits, and then we're onto something. We're actually in a moving position rather than a stagnant form of sitting there and waiting on something to happen. So four things create our capacity: our ability, our resources, our attitude, and our stewardship. Matthew 25:14 through 30. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read the whole passage here, but it's about the time when the talents that were given to the three people. Somebody received 5, the other one received 2, and the other one received 1. And so the person that had the most ended up going and expanding and creating something more out of what was given. The second person did the same thing, and the one that had the 1 talent, he went and hid it. And then the master came back and asked everybody, what did they do? And they said, okay, here's what we did. We multiplied it. And the person that hid his talent, basically, he was taken that talent back and given to the person that knew exactly what they were doing and how to increase that talent. So with other words, we all have been given abilities. In verse 15, the power to do something, to perform with full amount of capacity. We all have been given certain amount of resources, and those resources can grow over time if we know how to expand them and plant them, especially if we know how to utilize the people in our mailing list and how to create more partners and sponsors, which we're going into that direction in just a minute. But then we have the resources, but if we're doing nothing with those resources because our attitude is the way we interpret our current circumstances and our responses to our environment and to the people around us, then our attitude can become very damaging. So the person with the attitude of, I'm just gonna hide my talent and I'm not gonna do anything about it, I wonder if they really had a low self-esteem and they were just afraid and they just didn't know what could they possibly do with that just one resource. And the person who had already had enough experience with whatever they were doing in the past decided, I'm going to go and multiply it. I don't have to be afraid of this. And so here's the same thing that applies to us. Our attitude is really determined by our self-image, our self-worth, our self-esteem, and it depends on our goals. So that's a whole different course on goal setting and things like that, but just briefly to mention it here, when we set expectations that are too high of ourselves and we can't meet them, we immediately will lower our productivity level, and our attitude is going to become negative towards that goal because the goal is set improperly. So if we set a goal that after this class, I'm just going to grow my account and I'm going to have, 3,000 followers in the next month, and they're all going to love me. And out of those 3,000 people that already follow me, I'm just going to have 500 new sponsors. That is going to be a wrong goal setting, because at the moment, if your account is on 200 people that are following you, to get to 3,000 in less than a month, unless you're doing some kind of major amount of ads online, it's just not going to happen. And you got to remember, you got to establish relationship with these people that are following you also, and you won't have that much time. So it's best to break things down in small portions and small goal setting so that you can measure the results properly. We're going to be looking at statistics tomorrow and how to measure your goal and your setting as far as creating website that is search engine optimized, creating your posts that are actually going to be read and not ignored and engage audience. We're going to be talking about how do you create videos that actually cause people to want to listen to you and hear you. So all of that is a part of our attitude. If our attitude towards what we're doing is negative, it will be portrayed in our videos because our self-esteem is going to show through that. Before you start recording anything, if you're not in public speaking already and have had enough public speaking courses, I know that I have taken every one that Bishop had done over the years on public speaking and how do you present your vision correctly? How do you talk about anything if you were just given one word out of the blue and just create a sermon out of it? I mean, we had to do a lot of things, including how to walk properly on stage and how to stand up and proper posture. That was my first WIN class, by the way. And then I've taken it, I think, 5 other times. And every time it has been absolute blast. And every time I have learned how to stand up, how do I stand in front of camera. I would suggest before you go public doing any kind of videos, practice. Go and practice with your phone without publishing the things that you're going to be putting out there until you feel comfortable. Because if you start doing a video and your hand is shaking and you're holding the camera with your phone and then you're looking away and then you're looking back, after like literally a couple of seconds, people will turn it off. And then the next time they see you and you have improved, they will remember the first time they saw you, not the second time after you improved. So attitude is everything towards videos, towards writing, towards communicating. So here is the way attitude works. It's like an airplane with the wings stretched out. When the attitude of the plane is towards the horizon, it means that it's positive attitude. And when it's away from the horizon, it means it's negative attitude. So when we say somebody has a bad attitude, it's not so much that they hate something, it's the idea behind that's going on in their mind of an attitude they have towards a task. So I gave an example yesterday about my newsletters. My attitude towards the newsletters was negative. My attitude towards social media was negative. My attitude towards live videos was negative. Negative meaning I was afraid of something, but I couldn't figure out what. and because of my fear, I created negative resignation and negative way of looking at it. So it was expressed in procrastination, it was expressed in avoidance, and we have great masters at avoiding tasks. A lot of people that take these courses, and I've done webinars in the past with other people, only about less than 10% apply the information that they hear. And I will tell you why. Because you get engaged with other stuff that you're doing. And then your attitude towards the information is, oh, this was way too much. I don't even know how to start reviewing it. So you just dismiss the whole thing. Or, oh, you know what, that's not really for me. I mean, I'm just gonna wait for the Lord to just give me the right timing. If you're in this class, this should be your sign. This is the right timing right now. Don't start asking when is the right timing. The timing already passed. We're in the right class now, so it's time to learn. So this is my little nudge of an attitude change. The attitude changes only when we elevate the value over fear. The value needs to be elevated over whatever we're fearing at the moment. Why are you afraid of the camera? If you're afraid of the camera, you need to ask yourself why. It's probably connected to some kind of an childhood experience that you had, or somebody making fun of you when you were on a camera. If you're having a negative attitude writing newsletters or partners letters or communicating with your partners, it is something that's playing in the background of your subconscious mind telling you you didn't do good enough, or nobody responded to your partner's letter, you barely raised any support. And so you're sitting down the next time to write it, and all of this negative mindset is coming up forward, and basically you give up on the whole thing altogether because I just don't know how to do it. I can't do it. So that's the change in attitude. Find the value. Once I figured out, hey, I actually have something to say and it's important and people love to hear it, my whole attitude changed. I was freer to express who I was, and through my posts, through the writings, through the videos. So you get where I'm going with this. Attitude is everything. And then stewardship. Just like the man who increased the talents and what was given to him. So stewardship is not about how much you receive, but how much you actually keep out of that stewardship. It's not just how much comes in, but by keeping it, are you also increasing it? So if we constantly live with the poverty mentality that I'm just going to spend all of the money today and have absolutely nothing for tomorrow, then we're not investing wisely. And I have been guilty of that for a lot of years, where I would just give all of the money away out of the goodness of my heart and empty the whole account with the belief like, okay, well, God's going to provide next month. Thank God he did. But I end up getting audited several times by the IRS because they couldn't believe that I didn't have an offshore account somewhere, because my account was so low and they couldn't understand how in the world am I living with nothing. And I mean, auditing is not fun. For those of you who have been through an IRS audit, could probably vouch for it, but I never wanted to do that again. And I learned a lot. I never had to owe anything because I had no money that I had actually stolen. They just couldn't find anything, which was great on my end at the end. But I tell you what I learned is that I cannot operate out of a deficit presenting a vision. We should never represent our vision out of an urgency because we're in need, because really everybody else has a need around us too. So on the next slide, I want you to look at this part about vision. People support a vision, not a need, and people want to know what's in there for them, not what's there for you. So fundraising, as we're talking about, is biblical. We must believe that raising money and personal support is one of God's ways to provide for you. It gives people the opportunity to invest in God's kingdom. Then we must have a cause and burn with a passion. So successful fundraising equals cause, passion, and servanthood. Those are our three key words. We must have a cause, define the cause properly with our vision and mission, be passionate about it, because if we're not passionate and we just decided to do some ministry because everybody else is doing it and they're raising funds, it will not last long. I have seen people try to copy what I do without passion, and they're nowhere to be found today because they couldn't succeed and maintain their ministry, because the passion fuels your energy. Every single day, I don't have to have somebody motivate me. And maybe I learned that because I was raised up under communism, and it's like a strict environment and discipline. But my passion is not born out of fear. It's born out of revelation that what I do is important and empowers people. The same thing is with you. When you're passionate about something, it gives you extra energy. When you're not passionate about it, you would feel depressed after a few months of trying to do something. And the moment you start feeling depressed, you got to ask yourself the question, am I being depressed because of unrealistic goal that I just set? Or am I being depressed because I haven't identified my passion correctly? Or am I depressed and discouraged because what I am doing and trying to do is not working? Well, that is the time to connect with somebody else who is on the team and has the same experiences, has been through some struggles. That's why it's important that we all, as women in ministry, and a man, Walter, that's a part of our group tonight, that we stay connected and we continue to fuel that passion and energy by seeing what everybody is doing, connecting with one another. I have given you some scriptures here on the next slide. And I'm not going to read all of them. I just wanted to read a couple of them. They're all connected to the disciples traveling, ministering, and seeing that their needs were being met. So, for example, Matthew 10, verse 9 and 10 says, do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts, no bag for the journey, or extra shirt or sandals or staff, for the worker is worth his keep. So, this is right now taken out of context, but when you're looking at it within context, God was going to provide. And in a sense, even when you start something out of scratch with nothing, somehow, some way, God is going to bring the right people around you to sustain your ministry in the beginning. I started literally with one person that was supporting me, but I went to the mailbox every day with the expectation that I was just going to get some check in the mail, expecting people to support me while I didn't have anybody on the mailing list. Finally, I got 3 people on the mailing list, and I was joyfully running to the mailbox to see when I was going to get something. And I'll tell you a funny story in a minute. But the next verse here, Luke chapter 10, verse 7, stay there eating and drinking whatever they give you, for the worker deserves his wages. Do not move around from house to house. This was a part of just the instructions as the disciples were going and traveling with the Lord, what they were supposed to do. And then we have 1 Corinthians 9:14. In the same way, the Lord has commanded that those who preach the gospel should receive their living from the gospel. And, we're worthy of the fact that if you're preaching and you're ministering, that God is going to bless you. He's not going to abandon you and forget about you. So you can look up the rest of them on your own when you have time. But for time's sake, we're going to move on to the next slide here. And I was going to tell you about just the fact that God always provides through the most unexpected ways. Several years ago, I had a company that was actually running my donations for me because they had a database that we could use. And there were a lot of mistakes that were done to the point that money was taken out of my account without me knowing. and categorized in different areas. So all of a sudden we had no money in the account, and yet everything was categorized correctly. And I thought, wow, we have only, I think, because our budget had increased so much, I think we only had $3,000 left in the account. And that was not even half of what we were needing for that month. And so I'm sitting there crying and making a list of how I'm going to have to give up. Because I mean, truthfully, there are times when I wanted to give up because nothing was happening the way I wanted it until I learned some things. And I am glad I had that experience, because the Lord taught me something really big. And he said to me that, for one, he was going to provide and not to sit there worrying. But two, that it was going to be harder for me to give up because I've come already so far. Then having to go back is going to entail a lot of work to undo everything. So I might as well just keep on moving forward. And I stood up, and the next word that came to me was that Satan was trying to steal my DNA. And DNA, the Lord gave it to me as destiny never abandoned. That I wasn't supposed to abandon my destiny just because of one incident of what had happened. And I felt like I needed to go to the post office and pick up the mail. And the Lord said to me, get the mail now. Well, I went to the post office, and there was only one donation envelope. And out of my discouragement, I didn't open it for 5 days, because I was like, one person sent me a donation. Oh, big deal. And guess what happened? 5 days later, I opened it, and it was a check for $8,500. And it was through a woman who had seen me on TBN, and she felt like she wanted to give us a donation. Well, I didn't realize that the woman was demon possessed. So she sent us a donation, and the next thing I know, she calls me the following week, talking in all kinds of different voices. I mean, you could tell that the person is not all there. Long story short, I end up delivering her out of whatever demon was in her. And it happened through email, because she kept on writing, sending me these threat messages, how she's going to come and kill me and destroy me and everything else. Came to one of my services, because this was in Seattle, ran into me as she's coming. She's screaming her name and telling me that she's the one that gave the check and how she's coming to kill me, and then ran out the door on the other side of the church. And I thought, okay, well, this is interesting. And so she sends another email. And by that time I thought, you know what? The devil is a spirit. And therefore I can say to that spirit, wherever you are, you're going to have to release her and let her go. So I wrote the email, and I said, when you're reading this email, devil, you're going to come out of her in the name of Jesus. Do you know what happened? The next day she called me, and she said, I don't know what happened to me, but all of a sudden I can think right. And I sent you this money, and I really feel like that was me in my right mind. But I looked at my email correspondences to you, and that wasn't me. And I said, oh, I know. But see, I'm giving you this funny example so that you know God can provide to your needs and for your needs, even when a person is not fully serving God, or if they're demon possessed or something is going on in them. God is not a God who is limited to resources. That's just one funny example that came to my mind. All right, so fundraising in continuation is a lifestyle, and then in 5 minutes we're going to take a quick break. So like I said, personal appearance is very important, including your presentation. So what makes you different? How do people perceive you when they see you? Understand your personality and become comfortable with yourself. The more you talk to yourself in the mirror, the more comfortable you will become with who you are. People want to follow somebody who looks trustworthy, secure, and knowledgeable. With other words, if it was me, I wouldn't be running to Walmart in my pajamas. A lot of people right now do videos in their pajamas. They do videos, just to feel more relational. they do videos talking about all of their problems because they feel like somebody is going to relate to them. So there is a word in psychology called emotional throw up. And a lot of the videos that are done today are exactly that. Unprocessed emotional information recorded on a video because they think that that is just appealing to everybody else. And of course, it's going to be appealing to people who are emotionally dysfunctional. So if we end up creating a whole bunch of followers who are in an emotional disarray and they have no idea how to cope with emotions without us providing actual answers, you shouldn't expect them to be supporting your ministry. So I'm giving you extreme examples because that's how funny it is when you're going online looking at random videos to see what's being posted and what's being said. When we show up on a video camera, on a post, at the store, wherever we may be, we must know who we are, what our message is, what are we defined as, who is defining us? Is it God? Is it everybody else? Do we believe in our own message? Are we knowledgeable about the subject? And encourage people so that if we have processed certain information, certain crisis, don't just talk about the crisis, talk about how you went through it, the testimony and the solution that you can provide for somebody else. That's actually what will draw people to follow you the next time, because you have something to say that helps them move from their place of being stuck. And we as ministers provide exactly that, helping everybody else be unstuck in the current places where they're stuck in their homes because of the coronavirus. So when we come back, we're going to watch a video. I'm going to show you a couple of minutes of it, not the whole thing. You can watch it at a later time, but it's about understanding our why and the difference between why we do something and what we're doing. And once you understand that, it's going to be so much easier to write your vision and mission and create your why as well. Before we dismiss, a couple of more minutes here to 7:40, let's open it up for a quick discussion. Any questions so far or comments about what we're talking about? I know some of you were laughing at my stories. I just thought I needed to make you laugh a little bit with what things that have happened in my life. So go for it. You can unmute yourself and feel free to share.
But Ceitci, I like very much what you were saying about attitude, about specific tasks. That's such a big thing. I've been through that. I'm not over that. It's new things that I'll start dreading.
Mm-hmm.
I have, you go through your wall, you conquer, but that's not the end of the process of trusting
Right.
God and pressing through. Your example of dreading newsletters, that was a huge one, and the Lord really dealt with me about that. There are other things that I have pressed through with effort, but there are other things that I recognize I just have an attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Telephoning, for example. I don't like to talk on the phone. I tell people that.
Yeah.
I'll text, I'll email, I'll meet with you. I'll do anything except talk on the phone. And I've excused myself by saying, and actually it's a good reason, I don't know if it holds water. People talk to me because they have questions.
Yeah.
They need counsel. Well, if I just talk on the phone, they're not going to remember what I said. And I only have so much time, and I'm not going to talk about that same thing again.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to email so that they have something to refer to. So that's been my excuse. But I recognize that it's an attitude, and that shouldn't cover all telephone conversation.
Right. No, that is a great example, Bishop, because people who are more introverts, they're not going to want to talk to everybody under the sky. I am an extrovert, which plays well in what I do. I can talk all day to a lot of people, but I also don't talk to everybody because also people can drain our energy. And so we got to remember which people drain our energy and which people actually energize us more. Because if we are also with the attitude that we have to call every single person, then we're going to be exhausted and dead before too long. So I like your approach on emailing, and I have reverted to that. I'm going to give you guys a tip tomorrow on how to answer text messages with just a couple of clicks, so that you can connect to everybody that is a new partner or new follower. Those are things on our phone that exist, but nobody just hands us a manual with every single thing on the phone. So I'll show you how to do that in a fast and efficient way. But yes, attitude is everything in a lot of ways. And that Nike saying, just do it, doesn't work, because you're going against your will. And your belief is more powerful than your will. So when we change our belief, then our will follows. But our will never follow a belief that's contradicting. So if I tell myself, I'm just going to get up and make 20 calls today, and my belief is I hate talking to people, I will tell you right now, you will be pushing against that whole goal all day, all week, and then feel guilty at the end of the week that you didn't do it. So, I know Bishop, and I know how busy that is. I would never recommend anybody in her place to be calling a bunch of people at all. But for those of us who are not that busy, sometimes calling a person that has donated a lot of money, and this is the distinguishment here that I want to make, not calling just for random calls, because I don't make, when I was younger, I called everybody under the sky. But now I just limit my calls, I limit my time, and I have learned how to set boundaries so that people are not calling me in random times throughout the evening or early in the morning. I tell them I'm available between 11 and 2 for calls. And after that, probably won't be answering because I'm busy doing other things. And then I'll answer your call tomorrow. But you can't just be available 24/7, because then people take advantage, and then they talk. And if you interrupt them, they get mad and they get hurt feelings. And I know myself that I'm not going to be the most patient person, or the most compassionate, I should say, when somebody's repeating the same information 100 times to me. So I give that task to somebody who is more passionate and compassionate, such as my assistant or somebody that loves to hear everybody's stories. So when we know ourselves, we can delegate the proper task to somebody else who loves to do that job. Mine is more instructional. I'm getting on the phone, I'll tell the person what to do, and then we're getting off the phone. So, but in regard to what Bishop was saying, once again, belief is more powerful than your will. If you're taking notes, you need to write that down. All right, anybody else have a comment? Nobody else?
I have a comment. When you were saying elevate value over fear, what comes to my mind is 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So if we just let the Holy Spirit lead and guide us, we'll be all right.
Good. That's
Amen.
right. We always have to rely on the Lord to guide us and to lead us. And He also does that by us taking responsibility and increasing our knowledge and understanding. I've always been on the part where, once we grow to a certain level of maturity with the Lord, we're partners with Him. And He no longer calls us servants, we're His friends. And because I'm a friend of God and in partnership with Him, I have a certain responsibility to how to represent Him and how to express who He is to the world around us. So very good. So now it's 7:45. Let's take a 10-minute break and come back at 7:55.